All right. Welcome everybody to the September 25, 2024 Arts Commission meeting in Boulder. We'll start by approving the agenda for today. Anybody have any suggested changes or would like to make a motion?
I will make a motion that I approve the agenda.
I'll second. All in favor? Great. I will read the land acknowledgement. The city of Boulder acknowledges the city is on the ancestral homelands and unceded territory of indigenous peoples who have traversed, lived in, and stewarded lands in the Boulder Valley since time immemorial. Those indigenous nations include the Apache, Arapaho, Cheyenne, Comanche, Pawnee, Shoshone, Sioux, and Ute. The city of Boulder recognizes that those now living and working on these ancestral lands have a responsibility to acknowledge and address the past and must work to build a more just future. All right, moving on to the minutes from our last meeting. Any edits or changes that you see?
Do we need to discuss the resolution that were part of those minutes during that?
No, we're gonna approve the minutes and we can do that in another.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Wonderful, thank you.
I'm gonna approve the minute.
Second that.
All in favor? Unanimous. Excellent. Public participation. We have some opening
Yes.
comments and our rules. Rules.
I'll read the public participation guidelines. The city has engaged with community members to co-create a vision for productive, meaningful, and inclusive civic conversations. This vision supports the physical and emotional safety for community members, staff, and council, as well as democracy for people of all ages, identities, lived experiences, and political perspectives. For more information about this vision and the community engagement processes, please visit bouldercolorado.gov. The following are examples of rules of decorum found in the Boulder Revised Code and other guidelines that support this vision. These will be upheld during the meetings. All remarks and testimony shall be limited to matters related to city business. No participant shall make threats or use other forms of intimidation against any person. Obscenity, racial epithets, and other speech and behavior that disrupts or otherwise impedes the ability to conduct the meeting are prohibited. Participants are required to sign up to speak in advance and use the name they are commonly known by. Individuals must display their whole name before being allowed to speak online. In-person participants are asked to refrain from expressing support or disagreement verbally or with applause. Traditionally, support is shown silently through American Sign Language applause.
Thank you. And do we have anybody online that signed up to speak?
There's one person on the line. That person is not signed up to speak. We have two people present that are signed up to speak. And the first person is Deborah Malvin.
Great.
So do I sit here?
No, if you could please, the camera is right here and it'll pick you up if you stand near this.
Yes, over there.
Yes.
Okay, and
And
I
just
just,
speak up and then there will
Okay.
be.
and I got copies of something that I'm gonna require. It's the ballot measurement, which I just wanted to pass that out. So you
Great.
can have information.
Think of that as your camera and your microphone.
Okay.
Think of the center.
It'll find your voice though, and from there it'll zoom in on wherever you are.
I don't see myself, but okay.
It'll take some
that time. Okay.
Yeah, you won't be in one of the big squares. You'll,
Oh, that's fine.
you'll be.
Your panoed up above.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm Deborah Malden. I'm here tonight on behalf of Create Boulder to share that we plan to continue to advocate for general fund support for the Office of Arts and Culture. and we hope that you'll join us in our efforts. There is precedent for continuing general fund support for the OAC when the $3.5 million of anticipated arts, culture, and heritage tax receipts kick in 2025. According to the draft 2025 budget, the city's departments for Parks and Rec, and Housing and Human Services will receive substantial general fund support. $6.5 million in the case of Parks and Rec, and more than twice that, $14.2 million for Housing and Human Services, despite also receiving significant long-term dedicated funding, over $30 million each. Nevertheless, the draft 2025 budget zeroes out general fund spending for the Office of Arts and Culture. We believe this is a missed opportunity to enrich the lives of all Boulder residents and runs contrary to the 2023 Arts, Culture, and Heritage Tax ballot measure approved by over 75% of Boulder's voters last year. The measure reads, quote, direct and grant funding for arts and culture nonprofits, professional artists, arts education, venues and workspaces, public art, and multicultural programs. Do you have a copy? Out of a $2.6 million draft budget next year for the OAC, about $1 million is for personnel, cultural planning, transfers, and other expenses, costs that we believe should be borne by the city through its general fund. You more than most know well that $1 million of additional annual support, what additional support of $1 million would do for the Boulder community if the funds were spent as specified in the ballot measure. The new cultural plan was expected to have been completed this year to inform the use of the arts, culture, and heritage tax funds in its initial years. We are deeply concerned that instead of the plan informing the budget, the 2025 budget will inform the new cultural plan and set a baseline for the OAC's budget out into the future. We urge you to ensure that the new plan, like the current one, reflects broad community input and a bold vision for the future based on the aspirations and needs of our city's residents. And we hope you'll join us in advocating for continued general fund support for the Office of Arts and Culture. After all, arts and culture are the glue that holds our community together, improving our individual and collective well-being, making our community more welcoming to all, and setting up the next generation of Boulderites for lifelong success. Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. Do we have questions for them? Does anybody have a question for Deb? Are you willing to field?
I'm happy to.
I only have deep appreciation for you and Jen and so many of the other folks that were part of the 2A funding and for your guidance and suggestions for this as well. Always.
Yes, thank you for all of them. Can say, I just want to say that I will need to leave at 6:45, so I will be I will be watching you on tape delayed.
Great.
And I look forward to the conversation.
We'll make sure to speak up.
Thank you, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Deb.
Okay, and our second public participant to sign up to speak is Kathleen McComb.
You have 3 minutes, Kathy.
Okay, is this a good spot?
Yes.
Hi, everyone. Nice to be here tonight. Thank you for offering this opportunity. I was a member of the Arts Commission for 6.5 years, from 2016 to 2023, and one of 5 2A ballot petitioners who helped organize the campaign along with Deb and Jan and others. And I'm now a board member for Create Boulder. 2A provides a once-in-a-generation opportunity to support our creative community and help make us socially and emotionally healthier, stronger, improve the life of kids, advance diversity, equity, and inclusion, and enhance life for everyone involved. On behalf of many arts leaders, Create Boulder has asked the City Council to provide $1 million in general fund money to cover the arts and culture staff and administrative expenses and the new cultural plan process. We advocate for this continued support from the general fund out of fairness and parity with other city departments such as Parks and Rec and Social Services, which receive many millions of dollars in general fund allocations every year, as well as dedicated sales tax revenues. The intent of the ballot measure was to provide a more vibrant and sustainable arts environment that benefits the whole community. The proposed city arts and culture budget that you approved would use about 25% of the 2A dollars to backfill internal administrative functions, which we believe are important, extremely important, but they will also deprive the community of the significant benefits that full use of the 3.5 million in sales tax revenues would provide. And what happens if sales revenues in the future dip? An even greater proportion of the arts budget will consist of administrative costs, which do keep going up every year, as we know. We hope that will be the case. We hope the sales tax revenues will continue to rise, but we don't know that, and we wouldn't want to see a precedent set by not having general fund support for our staff and administrative costs. Regarding the new cultural plan, we hope you become actively involved in the community process to determine how to spend these tax revenues over the next 20 years. We believe the plan should address the aspirations and vision of the community. In the future, we ask that you not be limited to city budget proposals that zero out general fund support, but to think big and help support a more expansive vision with the help of general fund support. The city's first cultural plan identified big initiatives, and the department started with a $287,000 in funding to reach those goals 10 years ago, or maybe it was 9 years ago. I'm wrapping up. We reached some goals, but many we're still working toward, and we've had budget setbacks some years that meant cutting arts grants and other programs. We launched the 2.8 effort because we wanted to avoid this lack of sustainable budget. In the future, we ask that you not be limited, but to think big and help support a more expanded vision of arts and culture in Boulder. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions for Kathleen?
Just two comments. First one, I was on the dairy board, and this was during COVID days, when she was our liaison for the commission, and I use you as kind of my guidepost as to how to best serve arts organizations as a liaison. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
And thank you for your work on the commission. And we had a discussion about what the impact is, and when you're thinking about numbers, and when you're presenting, and if the ask of $1 million seems daunting, you can think of it as $10 for every Boulder resident of 100,000 people that live in our setting. It's a $10 investment for every resident of our city. That's one way to think of it.
Thank you. Appreciate that. It really brings it down to kind of reality base.
It's like the NPR ask, which they're in the middle of a drive right now.
Great. And no other participant comments? Okay. Moving on to commission business. This is a very easy transition because and just for the record, I do want to note on the record that this is some language that was developed by myself personally and with no input from staff. I know that they can't really get involved in the budget discussions. And to the points that Kathleen and Deb have brought up and how they relate to the vote that we had at the last meeting, wherein we approved what the community vitality portion of the budget as it applies to arts and culture. Was what we approved. So I have some language that I put in front of you to further clarify that and to just provide a message with that clarity to the city council and to the budget department. So what my resolution is, and we can do, if you have some minor edits, we can do that, but we can't get too deep into a discussion. If you guys aren't for it, then we'll just pass on making this a resolution. So the resolution language is that the commission shall send that further information regarding stance on budgeting for the arts to the Boulder City Council and Boulder Budgeting Office stating, quote, in follow-up to the Boulder Arts Commission vote made on August 28, 2024, approving the 2025 Community Vitality Budget as it applies to arts, culture, and heritage, the commission would like to clarify that its approval should not be interpreted as either A, a waiver of its ability to request arts funding from the Boulder general budget should additional funds become available, or B, as its endorsement of a position that no general fund support should be provided to the arts and culture, the Office of Arts and Culture and its programs. So I'll open it for any discussion you'd like to have or a motion.
Firstly, thank you for doing this. I think you and I were both like, and I remember even Maria and I just kind of staring at each other. What is this? And why are we being asked to do a vote on this? So I think this is a nice way to then go in and continue to ask for additional support where it's necessary, particularly on the administrative side. So I think this is a great compromise. So
Thank you. Yeah, and I don't want to place it on the commission to have a stance regarding that budget, but it's just, we'd like to keep the door open.
Absolutely.
Any further discussion or a motion?
I move to approve the resolution, is that?
That's right.
I move to approve the resolution.
Second that.
All in favor? Okay. I'll give you the place. Okay, great.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. Any other commission business? Great. Moving on to matters from commissioners and liaison updates. Fun stuff. Where'd you go see?
Feels weird not to defer to Maria.
I
Kick it off.
When I have a
I did my
question-
homework, so I'm very excited, and I did a lot of things. So, I'm usually not prepared. And some of it is because people wrote to me, but, I've been in touch with Claudia from Boulder Ballet. I'm not gonna read everything that they've been doing because it's massive, but they have been putting in a lot of time. They worked with a consultant. This is concerning some of the DEI concerns that brought to our attention last year. So they've worked with some consultants, with Alia Baker from Ballet for Black and Brown Bodies. And Teresa Roof of Ma Ballet have both been helping them with that. They've updated their board recruitment, with leadership and a goal for more equity. They've been doing a whole lot of things. They've hired 3 dancers of color, elsewhere, but as I think I brought up at a previous meeting, there's concerns about how those artists can feel comfortable living in Boulder, so that they can continue to attract guests. And they had their premiere Friday night, and Jeffrey attended.
Yeah, Deborah and I were both there, and they just about filled Chicago Hall. It was a pretty magical event.
Streetwise had their mural festival last weekend. And they're still doing all their data reporting, but there were 19 new murals created. 7 almost completely sold out tours across the weekend, panel discussions, everything was well attended. Highlights include, a mural, in honor of the work of Laura Cloud, a water rights advocate, and a mural, to raise awareness and protect big cats in Colorado. Just 2 of the new murals you can look for around town. And Heather from Betsy and I've been touched, and their season's about to premiere, and they also they're having a gala in October, and so they
October 6th.
October 6th. Assistant. So much today, I just needed to tell you. So thank you, great job.
Sunday at St. Julian.
And there's still tickets about, so we encourage that. And then just one other thing is that 2 weekends ago, the same weekend as Streetwise, we had a very busy arts weekend because we went to Junkyard for Steam Fest, which was great. And kid loved it, her friend loved it, it was fantastic, we got to smash things made from liquid nitrogen. And then also the chili bowl. I'll speak again. I just think I'm talking just a little bit.
Perfect, you got it. You got it.
Are you the, is it you or Maria that's the liaison for Boulder Ballet? So you mentioned they hire some dancers of color?
Yep.
Wow, that's great, after 40 years. And them trying to figure out, you know, how these dancers will feel comfortable living in Boulder. I think it's gonna be hard for them to figure out a brown perspective when no one on the board is brown.
There's something else. Updated board recruitment, which will building leadership that spans generations with diverse perspectives and backgrounds in dance, bringing increased representation. And they've also made their pay more transparent.
Anybody else want to do? Thank you. Thanks for
Thank you, Beth.
participating.
I
Anybody else have- Yeah.
Cheryl there, yeah, share that. Our event, Junkyard Social Club's event, Steam Fest, which received arts education funding, I had about 350 attendees. We're happy that 65 of those were on scholarship, offered way more than that, with 65 attended on scholarship. 18 participating artists, about 25 volunteers, a bunch of School Alliance kids came up and helped out. Same weekend, Lemon Sponge Cake had their shows, so unfortunately I was way overworked to be able to make it to it, but I heard great things from Jennifer. And then Frequent Flyers has a show coming up on the 18th that Nancy wanted me to mention, their Spooky Cabaret.
I went to Boulder Museum's, San Souci
Oh.
event, and, it was nice. That was the second time I've gone. You know, I'm always looking for diversity, and in the 10 films that I watched, only 2 of them had brown people. And there wasn't like any Asian or Hispanic, so it's room for expansion there. But otherwise, the quality of the films and the dancing of itself in the film is. So if you don't know what that is, they do films. So.
Yeah.
And I met with. What is his name? This was a while ago now. Person who is owning and running, East Window. Todd Herman? Huh? Todd Herman? Yes. Met with him, that was really nice, just as liaison to get to know him and what's going on and how it's going, and I was really impressed with, his gallery features art from people who it seemed mostly like physically challenged people. And it was just interesting to hear the perspective of artists who are not walking or don't have full use of their body. It was really cool. And we had a conversation about a grant from years ago. And he was like, yeah, you gave us our lowest score. And I was like, really? And I remember this. I remember the grant and wanting to know more information and wanting to go and see what they're doing. And I asked him to tell me about that experience. And so, and his response was that he actually looked at the organization. I think my comments were about the DEI group that they had for their organization. And his reaction was to actually diversify the group that they had. And because I had said, like, can you put their pictures up and put their names up? And so they did that. And I thought that was just a positive response, I guess. Yeah. Thanks.
Kind of transitioning into one of mine, which is Third Law Dance. And right now they're offering a lot of classes, dance for balance classes that are offered, they're focused on Parkinson's, people with Parkinson's, but open to all. So, those are open enrollment, and if you know people that might benefit from that, that's ongoing. And then T2 Dance has their gala coming up October 13th, which is at the Denver Performing Arts Center, the Ellie Hopkins House. And then they've got Voices, which is a dance film being shown at the Dairy. Don't know why I pointed to you, but November 16th. So I might go check that out. And then a reminder that KGNU has a public calendar of arts events on their website. So if you have organizations that are like, why can't we get more people to come, remind them of that resource. Yeah. And then I'm hoping to get an update next month on how everything's going with their build out for KGNU.
That sponsorship ask for them on what series they're producing. Got to see, Deb and I went to see, separately, Boulder Ballet on Friday. They basically filled the hall at Chautauqua. It was a really electric, magical evening. I met with Chris Taylor, individually. He is the new executive director for the, Museum of Boulder. And then I got to meet with he and Juliet Barch. She's the new development director there. Folks will remember her previously from the Library Foundation. Before that, she was working over at the Dairy Arts Center as well. So I got to meet with them and talk about where their finances are, but where the programming is too. And they have a 4-year plan for exhibits within the space. And it's really exciting. It's very engaging. And there's ways to monetize it also to help build their capacity, which is something they're rather desperately needing. On Saturday, October 5th, they're having a gala at the museum for their 80th anniversary. So I've already got my tickets for that. So again, that's Saturday, October 5th at the Museum of Boulder. And then for Viva Theater, they received one of our 6 organizational grants this year. And it was the first time they'd received one from us. And they're a small organization working with a historically underserved population. They are for and by elders. And so they've got a lot of folks that are on stage and active, 80 years old, 90 years old, 95 years old. And my first introduction with this organization was probably about 15 years ago. And I saw their most recent production in the spring and was really moved by what they're doing and how they're doing it and what level they're doing it. And so I met with them, leadership there at the end of July, because I just received a grant from us, so I want to coach them along. And within 2 months, we were able to put together their first ever fundraiser gala. And that was Sunday at the Dairy Arts Center. We got the licensure rights for a film called Ghostlight, which is about the power and the transformative nature of community theater, either as a participant on stage or watching it. And it wrecked us. But we filled the Gordon Gam Theater just about all the way full, and then did an ask in the lobby and reached a goal of a $10,000 fundraiser for them. So this was their first time, and it was very exciting, and it was a great community builder and fundraiser for them as well. And then their next production, Man Who Came to Dinner, opens next month. It's one of those great Kaufman and Moss, a great American place from like late 30s, early 40s. So get a chance to go see that. Also, local theater has Stockade opening here in about a week and a half. I encourage you to investigate that and go see that production. I met with Travis over at Orlando, talking about what their 3-year plan is, what their history is. He got to brag about, you know, the early days with Deb basically getting them their space down there and what they're doing and at what level they're doing now. And just what their reach is. And then we talked some GOS stuff as well. And then Shakespeare Festival, they put out the call for auditions for 2025 for their shows. And at the end of October, we'll have our next board meeting as well as a season release party that also happens at the same week. So we kind of know what to look forward to next summer for Shakespeare.
Thanks, everyone. Right. Anything else that would fall under other topics from the community?
Tomorrow at Junkyard Social Club is a nonprofit meetup. First of what's going to be a monthly, last Thursdays of the month. Nonprofits connect. Sometimes there might be speakers, sometimes there might be facilitated collaboration. It's being put on in partnership with the Community Resource Center. So if you have, if you want to share it with liaison, it's on our website. I can also share it out with you all individually after the meeting. If you want.
All right. Public art program.
Right. The correct response.
No, that's fine. I didn't know if you had latching.
No. Hi, everybody. I have some public art progress updates. What I wanted to talk to you about tonight was our experiments in public art program. So working with the standing selection panel, the standing selection panel is really in charge of temporary art, donations and deaccessions of permanent public art. So the experiments in public art falls under temporary art. This year, we do have some general fund dollars to spend with experiments in public art. But because of the short timeline in order to encumber the funds before the end of the year, the panel decided to do a sort of lecture workshop series, which is in keeping with kind of past projects that Experiments in Public Art has funded. So the panel decided to create an invitational, a list of 20 artists or artist teams that have civically engaged art practices. These artists were invited on July 17th via email. 5 of the 20 artists did respond with proposals. And those proposals were all approved by the standing selection panel on September 10th. I'm going to go through each of the projects right now. But we're hoping that the budgets will range between $5,000 to $15,000 per project. And the series, we're hoping the series will run May of next year through September. So as Boulder Arts Week wraps up in April, we can start kicking off Experiments in Public Art, which will be a combination of lectures, workshops, and potentially some temporary art installations. So I'll just gonna quickly go through the proposal. So Anna Maria Hernando, she's a local artist. She'll lead a lecture or two about her civic practice and her current projects. She'll also talk about her involvement in Experiments in Public Art in 2016. We're looking at her being sort of our kickoff artist in May. And there is a possibility here for a temporary art installation or community art making workshop. So Beamer Torres is also a local artist. He will lead a lecture or two. I can get to this in a minute, but he'll lead a lecture or two on his transformation from a graffiti artist in Denver to a really well-known mural artist. He'll also lead a design workshop and a live mural painting project with community members. So we're looking at September 2025 to kind of cap the series. So 2 local artists will launch and then close the series in 2025. And there's a possibility for a partnership here with Streetwise Arts. Their mural festival, which just happened 2 weeks ago, is in September, so this might be a perfect partnership. Sarah and Joseph Belknap, they're from Illinois. They will lead an immersive and an interactive presentation and performance about outer space and art making. They'll also hold an art making workshop under the stars. We're looking at August 2025 for this series, and there's a possibility for a partnership with Fisk Auditorium and Boulder Open Space. So it'll be a really cool experience to have them come visit Boulder. Molly Gambardella, she's from Connecticut. She'll lead a lecture about her partnership with the New England Botanic Garden and her art making process using mass-produced objects, reused objects, and looking at June for this lecture and workshop. And there is a possibility for a partnership with Growing Gardens and EcoCycle and for a temporary art installation as part of her workshop and lecture. And then finally, Renata Gowie and Francesca Rodriguez Sawaya, they're from New York. They're going to lead an augmented reality lecture about the history of weaving and computing through key objects and stories with a digital exhibition. We're looking at July for this project to happen. And there's a possibility for a partnership with CU Boulder Art Lab and Weaving Studio. So we got the proposals, they were all approved. We have additional funds. So the panel asked me to go back to each of the artists and ask if they would, instead of doing one lecture, could they do two lectures, like one in the evening and one on an afternoon? And, you know, if there's any possibility to kind of beef up a little bit of these programs. So I'm in that process right now, negotiating with these 5 different artist teams. So if we do, just for you all process wise, if there are going to be any temporary art installations on public property, I'll come back for more of a formal approval from you all. But right now, it's really a lecture and workshop series, so there's really no need for a formal approval from you all. But I'm happy to answer questions.
My favorite thing about every single one of those projects is the fact that there's a collaborative nature with a local organization, organizations that will benefit that organization from them learning, but it will also help co-promote the events too. So it's just the perfect win-win. So congrats on that.
Thanks. Well, thank you for your time.
Yeah. No question is good news, I guess.
Thank you.
Sure.
Great, thank you. All right, Lauren.
Okay, and actually, before I get started, I would like to welcome Sarah, who's been sitting back here. Welcome. We need your help. Glad you're here. He's already doing a wonderful job. Can you just say 2 sentences about yourself, please?
Sure, hopefully I'll speak up, but hello commissioners, I'm Sarah Garrison, the grants program manager. I previously managed grants for the Colorado Department of Transportation and Colorado Creative Industries. I'm very happy to be here on week 2. I'm happy to take we're finally off of Lauren's hands, and I'm getting settled, but I'm looking forward to getting to know you all better in a few months.
Welcome. Okay, so hopefully tonight will be the last time I present on the grant program for this. We'll take turns in the future, but let's look at grant funds. Okay, 1 second. Okay. Grant reports, and sorry for the snafu of getting these to you, so I deeply apologize. This is why Sarah's here. You had just 3 to look at: the Boulder Community Media Project, the Sounds to See Festival of Dance Cinema, which might be actually what you were talking about, but they turned in their report pretty quickly, so good for them. So, and then Jessica Bertram's CU Boulder Arts Administration Graduate Certificate Program. This is one of our leadership certificate. Yeah. So by now I imagine that you know the drill. You have the option to approve them all, approve individual reports, approve individual reports with questions, postpone approval until any of your questions have been answered, or not approve them and cancel the final payments.
Do you have language for us?
Sure do.
Wants to make a motion?
Sure do.
Then we can open it for discussion if it gets seconded.
I move that we approve the grants report from Boulder Community Media, San Souci Festival of Dance Cinema, and Jessica Bertram.
Great. Let's open it for discussion first, if there's any feedback or questions.
Both the community media, that was extensive. And it was a big collaborative lift with a lot of different funders in that. Put the language back up.
Oh, sure.
Remember
Sorry.
who I'm talking about.
Pardon.
No, I was really impressed with what they were able to produce, as well as how it really is guiding the city to notice, you know, some, the actual subject matter of the film. Since Susie, I thought it was an astounding amount of work to put that together, as well as having the dancers actually work as the filmographers also and directors. So I was really impressed by every aspect of that. Jessica Bertram, I don't remember, I don't know if I was a voting member when we went through that one
Yeah.
originally.
I mean, I voted for it.
Okay, oh, well, thank you for that. Yeah, yeah, I thought for an $8,000 grant, having 70 participants was kind of a low number in general, so I'd like to see more speaking towards that specifically. So that was my takeaway from that. But happy to approve the reports.
My only comment was on the Jessica Bertram grant, and I really did appreciate the impact she seemed to have on the people who were there, and that her intention was really seems to have been in line with the outcomes. And I really hope now that the CU dance department sees the value of this kind of outreach programming and will support her with their own financing. That would be great.
Yes, that'd be a beautiful town gown thing right there.
I just appreciated, Jessica, I could tell the excitement like coming through, like she was so excited about it, the fact that she's like, first time, my time at CU, I felt connected to the community. Yeah. No. That's what the arts should do.
All right, you ready for a vote? All in favor? Unanimous? Great, great program, blueprint.
Cool. And we'll send the comments to the applicant also. We, the royal we, so
Yeah.
not me. Okay, step 3. So you received a lot of documentation. I appreciate all of the time that you spent on it. Thank you in advance. And really our only question is if you have questions or advice on the program documents that were included in the packet, and I will give you a verbal refresher of all the things that you have done, which was the grant panel process, which was the big shift for next year. There were also, you might not have even noticed, frankly, but like we shifted the artist hiring grants and the professional development grants earlier in the year. That was something that we've heard from people over and over. It's one of the ways before we do a full cultural plan blueprint that to help some of the programs happening earlier in the year, like that are happening like for MLK Junior Day, right? The rubric for leadership pipeline scholarship, which you requested for next year, we did a version of a rubric, but still hopefully respectful of it being for an individual and having some of that, you know, you're talking about an individual instead of an organization or a grant project, right? It's like what they're working on. So a little bit different than our normal style rubrics, but still some numbers because that's what you've asked for. And then some minor adjustments to the scoring system and the rubric. And the rest of our discussion too, and all of these discussions, just to point out, we will be giving all of these to the consultants to talk about what we want for upcoming years and what we want them to be looking at when they're benchmarking with other cities and other grant programs. Like these are the concerns that this commission has and that we have as staff. Here you can listen to them talk about it and how can you help us dig into best practices and make that, and then be best practices ourselves, right? Thank you.
That's perfect.
Yeah, for us to be the best practice, particularly.
What
There-
happened to the conversation about hiring someone to school grants?
That's the grant panel. So they're in those documents, and I apologize, it is a lot of information. There is a process built out in the documents for a grant panel for next year. So it'll be a pilot, and I'm sure that as every pilot, we will have things to learn through that new practice, but it is in that very long packet if you search for the grant panel process. So yeah, we built it out and we're gonna try it and we're gonna learn from that.
Yeah, I think the packet really spoke to a lot of our concerns and hesitations, and I felt like everything had been brought up. or at least mentioned, so I felt pretty secure with that, so that.
Great, sure.
I'm noticing something that, I may already know the answer to.
Sure, yeah.
On the Leadership Pipeline Fund Scholarship.
Yeah.
The purpose of the grant is very rooted in language around those who are going to support, equity in the arts and
Yes.
leadership in those fields.
Yes.
And that's not reflected in the language for the scoring.
So the tie-in there is that they will have had access to traditional leadership development opportunities versus not having access to traditional leadership development opportunity. Thank you, sorry. And they will have an interest in becoming a mentor advocate or not having an interest. And there is some delicate government language happening there. We cannot say, like, we cannot narrow who we are.
I see.
Yeah. So this is a way to say, have you had limited access to traditional leadership opportunities? And that means many different ways, right? That could be all kinds of things, right?
It basically implies that they did come from a historically underrepresented
Okay,
or
I see.
underserved population.
Yeah,
Okay.
however
that
Yeah.
that seems, right? And this language too could, it go through some edits. I mean, that's what it's for, but,
That tracks. for me.
yeah,
Thank you for pulling that up.
there's some delicacy to it. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, I wonder too, if we can put information in there around, because I know we have the question of, have you received grant for?
Oh, sure. Yeah, we have like if you're a first time applicant or if you've received a competitive grant before.
Yeah, thank you.
Love it.
And when they're answering that question, I was always thinking that was in regards to this, the Boulder Arts Commission.
Mhm.
Cause I think it would be good information to know, if organizations are getting grants from multiple spaces.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because
I know that,
as an individual artist,
yeah.
I noticed I applied for a grant someplace else
Mhm.
and didn't get the grant, but the list of grantees showed that there was a large organization
Mhm.
in there that got the grant
Mhm.
that gets, so
Mhm.
if large organizations are getting all grants all around, and it makes it hard for us to grow
Mhm.
as a community, the arts to grow and change when the smaller individuals come into town. Just speaking from, like, it's so heartbreaking to watch these individuals come into town and they're doing something new and different, and then they leave because they're not getting the support that they need. So,
Yeah.
I think it would just be good
It also speaks
information.
to the system speaks.
Yeah.
Like if one person's getting all the grants, like they might be coming from a place. Like they're benefiting from the system that we're talking about. Changing.
Right, and I also don't want it to, I also want to make sure it's not disqualifying. And, organizations, or that, at least that it's something that we can grade on, are you getting it or not, just so we know. Because it may be an organization that is producing programming that speaks to one of our criteria or all of the criteria.
Right, definitely. Obviously, we would have to keep our larger
Yeah, but
organization.
but you are right, it's important to know.
Can I speak to those two things? Just what comes to mind. The first is that I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, the commission very purposely added the individuals category, community projects for individuals, for exactly that reason.
Yeah.
Because they were always, organizations with grant writers, even small organizations were just more competitive, right?
Yeah.
So the commission decided to separate funds out specifically for individuals, which is wonderful, right? Like I think it has served some of that purpose.
Yeah.
The second piece is that, and this is something I'm thinking if we can make a note about it, in the budget that they provide, other funders should be listed, because you're not just looking at their outgoing funds, you're looking at their revenue, right? And we do give them a link, which probably needs to be updated, but there's a link to, hey, here's a sample budget, if you want to see what a budget looks like. And I'll just double check that we have some, language about making sure that you're listing your revenue and your other sources, because that would be a real clear you know, even if they're applying for certain grants or they're looking at certain grants, it would be listed there, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have seen that on a couple balance sheets, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But then would we also need cost of operations?
Well, they're putting their, in like a project budget.
Operating.
Yeah, and for general operating support, they're putting their operating budgets.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
maybe it's just some language to help make it clear what you're looking for. Yeah, yeah.
is there a reason why this fan is?
No,
not
it
summer
was
hot?
really warm and the sun is out and then now it's
Yeah,
nice
it's
and,
definitely true.
yeah. It's to get you some like, yeah. Thank you. We'll see what we have for now in the grant stuff. It's just to be. Thank you.
I did see a typo in the. G-
Kathleen,
Channeling Kathleen.
I know, it's like, she used to send like immaculate copy
Oh
edit.
my
Sorry,
gosh.
I'm trying to editor. Sorry.
So
Appreciate it.
it
Thank you.
was in the, I'm trying to find the correct page to look it for you. It was in the general operating.
And you can send it
for
later too.
GOS. I just, I will forget to give it to you.
Oh, okay.
Have it down as page 12. Oh, I have to send it to you.
That's good.
It's a date.
Okay, we can, and also,
March,
well, yeah,
March 14th, but if you
Okay.
Google for 14.
okay,
You'll find it. Typo.
thanks, man. So. If that looks good to everyone, let me just put up some next steps here. Okay. So thank you very, very much for your time and through all of this, because I know this has been now like 4 or 5 meetings and trainings and talking to each of you, and I really appreciate it. This is the kind of thought that I deeply appreciate and want from all of you. So thank you. If there is any public comment, everyone's gonna say copy edit again. If there's, let me double check just if there's somebody online. Okay. And then for next step, sorry.
I forgot. one.
Yes, please.
I apologize.
Here, I'm gonna stop you.
And it was in the section about the new panelists coming in and, there's a bunch of stuff about the conflict of interest and my thought was there's language about being able to defend their scores and I would like to see it a little bit more crystallized in terms of, that it's gotta be reflected back through the rubric. Like your scores is reflected in the rubric or, however people wants to come up with language on that.
I will ask, thank you. Sure. Makes sense. Okay. So, thank you. Comment, for our next steps, we will vote on the grant program in full at the October retreat. And you will know, and I can also send it out if y'all are interested, that there are city council budget dates between now and then. So there are some points of interest which might change things, we don't know. But the vote will be at the October retreat, which is on the next slide, but then there are grant info sessions on November 21st and December 12th. We'll do one online, which is live translated. So there's a Spanish version and then we'll do one in person. And we'll reach out about, excuse me.
Is the intended audience for that the persons who are filling out the grants? We don't have any involvement in this.
In the past, we've usually had one commissioner each to ask questions and to respond as to like how you're thinking of things. It's a lot of the people that attend are really new applicants that have really never gone through the program. So they'll ask about, I mean, you've done it before, right? Haven't you spoken at one of those? You like sort of field questions about, oh, this is when I'm looking at the rubric and then I'm thinking of this. And when I'm looking at the community priorities, like, there's sort of guidance from you as commissioners that have read 1 million applications now, right? So 2 dates. We'll reach out to, hopefully get a volunteer at one of each. It's always really nice to have one of you there to like talk to people and just to meet the new people in town, the new applicants, right? And then just a couple upcoming dates for this commission in particular. Thursday, October 17th is our land acknowledgement committee and everybody's invited. I've been working with Phil Yates, from our, he's the primary contact for tribal nations, and we have a consultant named Ernest House who's going to come present. It's gonna be amazing. I highly recommend that you attend. This will be like, I believe at this point, it'll be like a training like we've done with Ana Sylvia, that it'll be noticed but not recorded, but we're still kind of going back and forth on that. And then our retreat will be 2 to 7 on Wednesday, October 23rd at Roots. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I think it'll be really interesting and thoughtful, and we'll do some good stuff there, so.
The land acknowledgement committee, is that here?
Yes, it is. And I will, when did I send out a reminder just in case? Myself, it is here, yes.
Really? It's in my calendar.
Yeah, it's on the calendar.
Okay.
It does say it's here.
Okay, great. Secretary. He's so organized.
I mean, that's why I hired him.
And that's it from me. Thank you, everybody. Thanks
Oh,
for your
wow.
time. Phew.
Can you put the last screen?
Yeah, sure. Cool. That one?
Did we really get through this in an hour?
Right?
I mean,
Look at us. Well, we still have questions from managers memo. Anybody have questions about that? October retreat, any comments about the October retreat, expectations, fears, excitement?
Well, I heard it's gonna be really fun.
Yeah.
The
She
word
said-
of the
She
street,
says it's fun.
oh no.
Yeah,
I have
expect
very
it.
high expectations.
Okay, good.
great. Excellent. Well, then let's eat some more barbecue and get out of here.
Yes, take them with you, please.
There are
Thank
to-go
you.
boxes.
Excellent.
Yeah, to go box.
The cornbread is so good.
Thank you, everybody who joined online.